Most people treat social interaction like the ultimate fuel. They believe that the more they connect, the more alive and validated they become. But for you, the world's constant chatter often feels like trying to watch a high-definition 4K movie on a shaky dial-up connection. It is simply too much noise and not enough signal. You aren't socially awkward or boring for choosing a quiet night in with your own thoughts over a loud, crowded party. You are simply operating on a much higher resolution than the average person. You have realized that while others are busy chasing the next social high, your brain is busy processing reality at a much deeper, more complex level. For too long, society has tried to convince us that humans are like broken Lego pieces. We are taught from the moment we can speak that we are born as mere fragments, wandering the world in a desperate, almost frantic search for a matching brick to complete us. We call it finding our other half, as if existing as a whole. Single person is somehow a design flaw in our evolution. But what if that entire narrative is fundamentally wrong? What if you aren't a fragment at all, but a whole, high-functioning, and incredibly complex set all by yourself? Choosing solitude in a world that never stops talking is not a social failure. It is a quiet, powerful rebellion. It is about the profound realization that being alone is not a wound to be healed, but a sophisticated state of mental mastery. Before we unlock the fascinating science of why your solitude is actually a high-performance state, if you find yourself nodding along to these words, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe to stay connected with our community of deep thinkers. Now, let us look at what is actually happening inside that beautiful, high-resolution head of yours. While the world praises the extrovert buzz, neuroscience shows that for people like you, the reward system in the brain works on a completely different frequency. Think of your dopamine system like spice tolerance. An extrovert has a high tolerance. They need the whole jalapeno of social noise, loud music, and constant interaction just to feel a baseline buzz. Without a crowd, they feel understimulated, restless, and bored. But your brain? You have a much more sensitive and finely tuned system. To you, one tiny flake of red pepper, a short, meaningful conversation, or a quiet cup of coffee by the window, and you are already at your peak stimulation level. You don't need the crowd because you reach optimal flow much faster and with much less effort. In 2016, researchers at the University of Buffalo finally gave this a specific name: unsociability. It is vital to distinguish this from being antisocial, which implies active hostility toward others, or being avoidant, which is driven by an underlying fear of rejection. Unsociability is a calm, confident, and healthy preference for your own company. You aren't running away from people. You are simply reaching your happiness quota with much less external interference. This sensitivity is actually an evolutionary advantage. It allows you to process subtle details and patterns that everyone else misses while they are busy chasing the next hit of social adrenaline. This brings us to the most exciting part of your mental hardware, the default mode network, or DMN. Most people assume that when you sit quietly, your brain is resting or idling, but the truth is actually the opposite. Dr. Marcus Rachel discovered that the DMN is a complex system of brain regions that ignites only when you stop focusing on the outside world. Think of it like a high-performance computer that needs the screen to be dimmed so it can run its most intensive background updates without interruption. While an extrovert's brain is busy processing social cues and small talk, your DMN is busy connecting distant dots, solving life's puzzles, and creating those brilliant aha moments. This is exactly why Steve Jobs was famous for his long, solitary walks through Palo Alto. He knew that his most revolutionary ideas for Apple wouldn't come from a crowded boardroom meeting, but from the deep silence of a solitary path. He wasn't avoiding work. He was activating his most powerful mental processor. Solitude isn't empty time at all. It is the essential incubation period for your next big breakthrough. Even history's most eccentric geniuses understood this sensory calibration. Nikola Tesla possessed a level of mental clarity that allowed him to visualize entire, complex machines in his mind down to the last bolt before he ever built them. But he famously stated that solitude is the secret of invention. He knew that the brain is like a sensitive radio. It can only receive clear signals when the surrounding static of other people's opinions is turned down. You are not sensitive in a weak way. You are calibrated for depth rather than breadth. You don't need 1,000 surface-level interactions because your brain is already busy deep diving into the ideas that actually matter. You are playing a different game entirely, one that values the quality of thought over the quantity of connection. Beyond the biology, there is the strategic power of what psychologists call healthy solitude. For decades, Bill Gates has practiced something called a think week. Twice a year, he disappears to a secret cabin in the woods, completely alone to read, think, and distance himself from the noise of the global tech world. This is what the legendary psychologist Abraham Maslow called abundance. It means you enjoy being alone because you are a complete person who chooses to be there, not because you are using solitude as armor to protect yourself from the pain of rejection. Research from Dr. Bella DePaulo even shows that people who embrace solitude often have stronger, more meaningful connections with their wider community than those who are constantly coupled up. Because you aren't clinging to people out of a desperate need for validation, you are connecting out of a genuine choice. You bring your whole, recharged self to the table because you have already spent quality time at your own table first. In cultures like Japan, this self-sufficiency is celebrated through the concept of hitori, which is the art of doing things alone with pride. It is not a confession of loneliness, it is a bold statement of independence. They have designed entire social structures, like solo dining booths and single-seat theaters, to honor this fundamental human need. It recognizes a truth that the West often forgets, that sometimes the best person to hang out with is yourself. You are not a missing puzzle piece waiting to be found by a stranger. You are already the entire puzzle box. Ultimately, being alone is not a sign of social failure. It is more often than not a sign of high social intelligence. It means you know exactly who you are and you aren't willing to dilute your energy or your personality for the sake of filling a seat in a crowded room. You aren't incomplete. You aren't waiting for someone else to fill a mysterious gap in your soul. You are already the full, finished set. The next time someone asks why you stayed home, you can tell them about your high-resolution processing or your prefrontal cortex activation. Or you can just smile and say, "Because I like my own company." It is perhaps the most powerful and honest sentence you will ever speak. What do you think about this? Do you see your solitude as a superpower or a shield? Let me know your thoughts in a quick comment below. If finally understanding your need for solitude felt like a massive relief, there is a level 2 to this conversation that we haven't even touched yet. While today was about recharging your internal battery, our next chapter explores something much more intense and mysterious: the psychological mechanics of why some people reach a breaking point where they decide to hit the delete button and cut everyone off entirely. It is a deep dive into the hidden world of social rebooting, and trust me, the reasons are far more complex and fascinating than just liking alone time. It might just explain the parts of your personality you haven't dared to look at yet. You can click right on the screen to watch that next. Thank you for being here, goodbye, and see you in the next video.